Snorunt. What a sad creature. Pitiful, shivering. Allow me to tell you its tale. A child lost to the cold, destined to a fate most egregious. In the dance between humanity and the cold, a somber waltz echoes through the annals of time, a testament to our ceaseless struggle against nature's dangerous forces. But few are quite as paramount as our ever-enduring struggle against the icy embrace of winter's cruel grip. From ancient nomads huddled around flickering flames, wearing the skins of beasts and ever-turbulently shivering, burning the few calories they managed to store from seasons now past, to even now in our modern civilizations fortified against the biting chill, we are merely one downed power line away from a slow and sad demise. Throughout history, we have waged a relentless battle against the frost's own relentless advance with every cycle of the axial tilt. And each shivering breath, each frost-bitten fingertip bears witness to the resilience woven into the fabric of our own existence. Yet in the midst of our defiance, there lingers a haunting recognition of our fragility, a recognition that beneath the veneer of civilization throughout our times lies a vulnerability as delicate as frost-bitten petals. Our history is etched with tales of sacrifice and survival, of fleeting moments of warmth amidst a vast expanse of frigid desolation. And still, as the shadows of winter lengthen and the bitter winds howl their mournful dirge, humanity stands defiant, a flickering flame in the endless night, a shelter built from materials given to us by the very nature that seemingly seeks to destroy us. Of course, however, all our struggle truly does is delay the inevitable. Poetically, we think we are forever locked in an eternal struggle against the cold embrace of oblivion, but there is nothing truly eternal about it, is there? Snorunt is a Gen 3 oddity. Aside from the legendary Regice, its line is the only mono Ice-type Pokemon in the Hoenn Pokédex, and even then, when you include dual types, you can only add on the Spheal line. Though I suppose having so few Ice types is fitting of the region. Hoenn is based on Kyushu and its surrounding islands all the way down to Okinawa, tropical paradise and popular vacation spot. Not exactly a place known for making snowmen and ice sculptures. Its winters only get as cold as 50 degrees, oh no! But hang on, the main part of Kyushu has mountains, those are cold, and yes, certainly, Kyushu has Mount Aso. It's quite the tall mountain, and Japan's most active volcano, which of course explains the hot springs and falling ash all around the sweltering hot fire-type gym. So let's see, a quick googling of does it snow in Kyushu reveals that the answer is almost never. Almost. There are a few mountain peaks that see just enough snow for skiing every winter, but it's not at all considered great skiing territory, and that's why in Hoenn there are no places locked in snow like many other Pokemon regions have, which honestly makes Snorunt and Glalie feel out of place, doesn't it? Were they intended for Gen 4 originally? That's when they gave Snorunt an additional evolution, Froslass, and Gen 4 takes place in Sinnoh, which is based on Hokkaido, the complete opposite end of Japan, and it's famous for having some of the most snowfall ever. Look at this! You do not want to be caught in that! Not to mention the yokai we're about to talk about, the few that inspired this Pokemon line. Yeah, they are all either from Hokkaido or just across the Tsugaru Strait here. Still very much northern North Japan. I swear. And let's see, we know that a lot of the Gen 1 through 4 Pokemon were designed way at the beginning and saved for sequels, or just cut due to space on the Game Boy cart. So I do wonder, was Snorunt and Glalie in Hoenn by mistake? Or added later on when they realized they only had one new ice type and it was a legendary? Are you an accident, child? Only here by necessity? Well, whether intended or not, they are here in Hoenn. So what are they based on? What is their lore? What inspired them? Let's start with the pointy baby Snorunt and bring up the Pokedex. It says Snorunt live in regions with heavy snowfall. Snorunt survives by eating only snow and ice. It can only survive in cold areas. Where do you even live in Hoenn? Oh, okay. Shoal Cave exclusively, which I guess is a cold cave, since it's also where you find the Ice Heal and Never Melt Ice items, Hail and Frost Breath TMs, along with Glalie and the Ice Rock to evolve Eevee and Oraz. But even then, Snorunt, you're only in a single room in a single cave in all of Hoenn. Why are you here, confined in such a small space? Snow! The real island this place is based on is named Mageshima, and it likewise is a small subtropical island with little more than a small village and a joint Japan-US military base on it. Nothing icy at all. But your locations in all other games do make perfect sense. Like, you're in the snow. So like, what gives? You have to be an accident, right? Run! Maybe we'll get some answers by looking at what it is, rather than where it is. And thankfully, we don't have to think too hard about it because your Japanese name is just straight up what you are. You're like seal in that regard. How does that make you feel, being compared to a seal? All this talk about Japanese, though, reminds me that this video is sponsored by ZenMarket. Did you know the Japanese Pokemon Center online store has plushies of Spheal, Bergmite, Vanillish, and Snom that are not only pretty big, but that are made with contact cold fabric so that they actually feel cold to the touch? You can snuggle them to cool down! But wait! They don't sell these outside of Japan, which makes me sad, but ZenMarket can make it all okay. They are a Japanese proxy service, which means you can buy Japan-only goods through them and they will buy the items for you, store them in their Japanese warehouse, and then pack everything up nice and ship it to you internationally. I have ordered more things than I'd like to admit at this point. Mostly Pokemon things, of course, like this. And this, and this. But also high-end models and S-tier tools for building them. With access to more than 10,000 Japan-only online stores, there's something for everyone. Sign up with the code Lockstin to let them know I sent you and get 1,000 Zen points, the equivalent of 1,000 yen off coupon for the international shipping fee. And I hope you have fun exploring on your shopping spree. Snorunt's name in Japan is simply Yukiwarashi. The Yukiwarashi, also sometimes known as Yukinko, are Japanese folklore creatures or spirits, also known as yokai, and they are simply portrayed as cute little kids wearing peaked snow jackets. Their straw jackets, called mino, have a hood that ties around the chin and comes up to a point so that the snow can't accumulate on their heads. Looking at all of these examples, you can really clearly see the inspiration. Though interestingly, they are sometimes depicted as little snowmen, almost. What's up with that? Well, the original story is up with that. This spirit originates in a tale about a couple who were both old and childless and sad about that fact. One winter, they made a snowman shaped like a little kid, and after a blizzard, it came to life. And they all lived happily ever after, until winter ended and the kid melted. Until next winter when the kid came back, yay! It's basically Japanese Frosty the Snowman, and perhaps this is why Snorunt prefers to live in snowy areas despite always shivering themselves, the poor things. Snorunt's Omega Ruby Dex entry states that in seasons without snow, such as spring and summer, this Pokemon steals away to live quietly among stalactites and stalagmites deep in caverns. Perhaps the only place cold enough to live long-term for him, and perhaps the only reason it's so cold in Ice Cave in Hoenn is because they are all there in the first place, as there's no reason for the cave to be this frigid otherwise. Them all being here makes the area cold. It's like the opposite of your body heat warming up a space that you're in. But now, the Yukiwarashi is not the only spirit referenced by Yukiwarashi, because you can use the same kanji to spell out Zashiki Warashi, who is another childlike house spirit who brings good luck, which relates to some other dex entries for Snorunt. In the Snow Country, certain folklore says that a house will prosper if a Snorunt lives there. Old folklore claims that a house visited by this Pokemon is sure to prosper for many generations to come. Cute! As for the origins of the Zashiki Warashi itself, though, not so cute. Zashiki Warashi are said to be the wandering spirits of children who were killed and buried at home because there were too many mouths to feed during a time of famine or a particularly harsh winter. Still an innocent child at heart, they enjoy hanging around with the other children in the family, and even play and bring good luck to the house after being offered little treats. Here's a curious Dex entry. Rich people from cold areas all share childhood memories of playing with Snorunt. You know, these days, many old houses up in the mountains of Japan are no longer used as permanent living spaces, but rather as vacation homes and rentals, so surely the rich families using them bringing their families on a month-long getaway would see their kids playing with Snorunts, who are like happy little kids themselves, when they aren't shivering to death. Speaking of, fun fact, freezing to death is surprisingly one of the nicer ways to go. You usually pass out before you die, and almost paradoxically, hypothermia can induce a warm and fuzzy feeling, even euphoria. Before you pass out and die, that is. All I'm saying is there are worse ways to go. But go, this poor Snorunt does, upon evolving into a Glalie. Glalie's body is frozen solid. Its actual body is a rock that isn't particularly hard, which it hardens with an armor of ice. It has the face of a distant, cold-hearted person, and almost looks like it's wearing the ice hockey masks worn by goalies. But those teeth... oh, they're horrifying. It's like what people do when they freeze to death. I obviously won't show you any real frozen dead bodies, but it's known that upon freezing, the lips often shrink back, giving frozen corpses this spooky teeth smile that Glalie has. Okay, actually, I'll show you one ancient guy who became a frozen mummy. See him lips. Get spooked. In Alola, legend says a boulder on an icy mountain absorbed the distress and regrets of a stranded mountaineer, giving rise to Glalie. Being stranded up in a mountain isn't all that uncommon. Even the big shot tourism mountains in Hawaii occasionally see people injured and lost for days. Though, of course, the most famous example of this phenomenon is the frigid Mount Everest. Since record-keeping began in 1922, more than 322 mountaineers have perished on the climb, and that's a lot of potential Glalie. And Everest is only the 15th deadliest mountain. It's just also the tallest, so it's the one everybody knows about. But the deadliest mountain, Annapurna, has a fatality rate of 32%. Yeah, about a third. For every 3 people that go up, only 2 come back down. Yeah, I'd be distressed and regretful as I lay there, freezing to death. Why did I think coming here was a good idea? Obviously I'm gonna be the one who dies. I am not fit in the slightest. Oh, the euphoria is coming, haha! Oh, and now I'm a Glalie, dang it. This is the worst! What a cursed existence. But just like with Snorunt, Glalie's Japanese name points us right into its exact design origins. Onigori is a very fun combination of words. The end is a Japanese transliteration of goalie, referencing the hockey goalie mask I mentioned, while the whole name sounds similar to onigiri, Japanese rice balls with filling and dark nori. They are often frozen and sold in Asian markets. And the beginning of the name is Oni, another yokai or demon, also known as the Japanese ogre, orc, or troll. They definitely have fitting faces, big ugly mugs, horns, often blue, and there's actually a specific type of Oni we can look at. Giving Snorunt's association with the straw hat and clothing, and being based on a yokai from northern Japan, we can easily say that Glalie is a Namagae Oni from northern Japan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They are pretty simple though. Simply Oni from northern Japan who wear similar big straw mino just like Snorunt. Straight and to the point, absolutely perfect. Glalie is just like, oh, the head popped off and it's floating around freely now, like many other yokai that are just floating heads. It's a surprisingly common thing. Plus, I mean, a ball of ice in the air, that's just hail. It's a giant living hail ball. Hence its ability, Ice Body, that makes it heal itself when hailing. It adds more hail to the pile. It heals with the hail, because it itself is like hail. And the way Glalie eats is like hail too, if hail could grow to its size and eat. Its prey is instantaneously frozen stiff by the cold air it exhales from its huge mouth. While they're in that frozen state, it gobbles them up. It can instantly freeze its prey solid. After immobilizing its prey in ice, this Pokemon enjoys eating it in a leisurely fashion. Oh, and then it mega evolves. The poor thing! but at least we can get a good look inside now. It's just blue, but it also now has red eyes and extra horns in an X shape. But most notably, it loses the Glalie mask, revealing an almost skull-like upper half and a beard-like lower half way down there because the excess energy from Mega Evolution spilled over from its mouth, breaking its jaw. Its inability to eat very well leaves Glalie irritated. I'd be angry too. Angry like an Oni, those Japanese ogres, who in many classical depictions on masks and such almost always have their mouths open, jaws dangling. Sometimes to the point where maybe they couldn't even fully close their mouths, in part because they're just masks, yes, but also because their jaws and teeth are just too big, leading to depictions like Digimon's Ogremon, who even still talks with its jaw always dangling, and of course, Mega Glalie. I suppose the beard is good for cold weather too, plus a few Oni are depicted with them as well, like the Oni of Suzuka, white with a black beard and said to control the weather. Weather makes hail. Glalie is hail. But this method of hunting and consuming its prey is related to yet another yokai. A yokai who finds humans it likes and freezes them and takes them to its chilly den where they become decorations. A yokai who freezes hikers who have to climb snowy mountains and carries them back to its home. It only goes after men it thinks are handsome. A yokai who freezes foes with an icy breath nearly -60°F, and what seems to be its body is actually hollow. Legends in snowy regions say that a woman who was lost in an icy mountain was reborn as Froslass. Oh yeah, none of those were quotes about the yokai. They were just text entries for Froslass. But all of those quotes do also fit the yokai exactly. The Yuki Onna, Yuki Anba, Surara Onna, Yukinba, and or Yuki Furinba are all similar and all fitting of Froslass. The Yuki Anba is a young mother walking through the snow in the wilderness wearing a thin white kimono and is desperately holding her baby to her chest. Whomever she sees will hear her calling out desperately for help with her baby, and if you offer to help her, she will offer you her baby to hold and keep warm. And if you do take the baby to hold, some versions of the story say you will be frozen on the spot instantly and you will become a meal for the Yuki Anba and her child, otherwise known as the Yukinko, which again is just what Snorunt is based on. But some versions of the story will have the snow child simply curse you into paralysis. You cannot put them down, and they are getting heavier and heavier, and you slowly freeze to death in the blizzard, sinking ever deeper into the snow until you become yokai food. Oh yeah, and if you refuse to hold the baby because babies are gross, she flies into a rage and bonks you over the head and hammers you into the ground like you're a giant nail. And then she freezes you solid and eats you. So it's guess if you're in the wilderness and it's snowing and you see a woman in a white kimono, just avoid eye contact and walk on past her like she's an Enderman. In one story, a samurai decides to try and avenge his friend's death who had been a victim of the Yuki Onna, so he searches around for her and eventually finds a child running freely in the snow, despite looking way too young to be running around on its own. And in the freezing snow, no less! He chases after the kid, and to his surprise, the child is just growing and growing like a snowball rolling down a mountain. It grows until it is a full-grown man-sized baby. And then it continues to grow even more until it's the size of a house. After taking a moment to compose himself, the man takes out his katana and charges at the horrifyingly large baby, slashing with all his might. But then, as soon as his katana makes contact, the big baby shattered into a million ice shards. And then, the Yukinko and Yuki Anba were never seen in that village ever again. Notably, snow collecting all around the snow baby, making it grow huge layer by layer, is exactly how hail forms in the sky. A tiny water drop freezes, wind blows it back up into the moist cloud where it gets wet again, and then that water freezes. Repeat and repeat until the hail is big enough that it falls and ruins the life of every single insurance company worker. Yet another version of the Yuki Onna has her dubbed the Snow Vampire, where she tempts men or children close to freeze them and drain them of their soul through a kiss. And notably, draining kiss is one of the very first moves Froslass learns. And look at those sharp teeth on her mask. But the one thing every version of the story shares is that the yokai is a beautiful ghost of a woman, only found in snowstorms and dressed in a snow-white kimono. Hence Froslass looking the way she does, being the types she is, and learning all the moves she do, and in being a female-only evolution to Snorunt. But just like with Glalie and Snorunt, while you could end it there with its most obvious source of inspiration, it has Poetic entries inspired by a different, albeit similar, yokai. The soul of a woman lost on a snowy mountain possessed an icicle, becoming this Pokemon. The food it most relishes is the souls of men. This lines up with the Icicle Woman, Surara-onna, a woman made of an icicle on the eaves of a man's roof, brought to life by the man's wishes to find a woman as lovely as the icicle's own beauty. They fall in love and get married, but like the Yuki Warashi from earlier, she melts at the end of winter. But he, though heartbroken, moves on and marries a new woman by summer. However, come winter once more, the icicles form again, and when he goes outside to look at them, they transform into the Icicle Woman, who is so mad at him for finding another woman, she pierces his skull with a huge icicle straight through the eyeball. Cold-hearted murder. There's also the Yukinba, or the Yuki Furinba, which looks like a nightmare. A giant old woman's head, hopping on one leg, with sharp biting teeth and grasping hands. The Yuki Furinba looks like a regular old woman with pale white skin and wrapped in a thin white kimono, and in fact, the Yuki Furinba is notably like an elderly version of the young and beautiful Yuki Onna. The Yuki Furinba's most distinguishing characteristic is the red rope that she carries. They call out with sickly old woman voices, asking for help, and if you seek out the voice to help it, she gets ya. She freezes and gobbles you right up, and the fact that she's one-legged puts her in with plenty of other one-footed yokai, collectively called Ippon Datara, and it's the explanation for the uneven pattern of snow melting. When snow melts in pockets, it looks kind of like something with a single large leg was hopping around in the forest. In the case of Yukibo, this happens in tree wells, and ancient Japanese people saw these markings and imagined a one-legged snow monster to account for them. And of course, notably, Froslass has no feet at all, but if she were to land on the ground with her pillar-like torso, she would leave a single footprint. Yeah, plus the red rope. The red rope? It's like the red obi tying her kimono on. And plus, ancient Japanese corpses were bound up before being buried, and that was usually done by an outcast in the community because corpses are icky. You don't want to touch them. And often, that outcast would be any poor old woman who was desperate for the little bit of money the corpse tying paid. So the idea of this old woman walking around to bind up corpses, the rope being the color of blood, it all just adds to the horror of the situation, doesn't it? A situation already symbolically spooky, given that white is the color associated with death in Japan. Blizzards in the old days were always the storms of death falling from the sky, waiting to kill anyone caught in the cold, and kill entire villages who were not prepared for the famine brought. And now, it may have taken several generations for Froslass to get the same treatment as Glalie, but now we have Mega Froslass, who kind of just follows suit with a lot of Mega designs. It's the original Pokemon, but more. She's taller and has longer hair, her kimono has intricate icy patterns on it, and her bottom now generates its own ghostly cloud or snow. But most strikingly, the icy little hair buns or cropped horns are now full Oni horns, which, given the mask theme that both her and Glalie always had, immediately makes me think of the Hanya, a traditional Japanese mask used in Noh theater, with its two horns, sharp teeth, metallic eyes, and an expression of sorrow. It depicts a jealous or enraged female Oni, or Onryo, which is a vengeful ghost who isn't necessarily, but most often is, a woman. Now, as a Mega Froslass, this Pokemon can use eerie cold air imbued with ghost energy to freeze even insubstantial things, such as flames or the wind. I'd imagine that's freezing the moisture in the wind, though a common trope in horror is that haunted areas don't experience much wind or movement. When you step into a clearing in the forest and suddenly the wind stops, you're in a haunted zone. Oh, and the lantern or candle you were using for light, it randomly went out.
Spooky.
One final point. Froslass's overall body shape is a lot like Kokeshi dolls, which have become yet another cultural icon in and of Japan. While very commercialized these days, their original purpose, while unclear and debated, is eerily sad and very fitting of both Snorunt and Froslass. The popular theory on the origins of Kokeshi is that they are symbolic stand-ins or supernatural substitutes for the unwanted babies killed after birth. Oh, we can't actually afford this baby this winter, so we'll just do an infanticide and keep this doll instead to symbolize it. Thankfully, dolls don't eat. Infanticide was once a very common practice throughout the whole world through most of human history. It only started slowing down through the 16 to 1900s thanks to factors like the peasant class having more money, better access to birth control. But yes, a dead child you had no choice but to kill since you couldn't feed it. Where have we heard this before? Oh, that's right, the Yukiwarashi, Snorunt, which in turn relates to Snorunt's Platinum Dex entry. It is said that several Snorunt gather under giant leaves and live together in harmony. That relates directly to the Karapaku in Ainu belief, the group of people native to Hokkaido, who often made little dolls of them, linking all of this up in a nice little bow. It all comes together. Where the heck is Glalie? No, really, where did... Hello? Okay, maybe it doesn't all come together.
Bonus fact.
That's what Warden Kalaba was based on in Legends Arceus. The leaf, the being a very tiny old woman in the same region. Yeah, and all of the yokai mentioned today are also found in the areas it snows the most in northern Japan. But never, ever, at all, not even the tiniest bit, are these yokai in southernmost Japan where Hoenn is based. What the heck? Were you here by accident? Were you supposed to be introduced in Gen 4 like Froslass, but they realized they needed more ice types? Like, at least it's in the same country. It's all Japan, so it's not that bad, you know? And plus, I guess in the early gens, Game Freak didn't really care about matching every Pokemon to the region perfectly, like they do these days. So which Pokemon based on the yokai should I explain next? Because there's a lot of them. There's even the big, dark, and ugly Spider Bull yokai that arguably played a role in inspiring Umbreon, and I talk about that in this video here. I hope you check it out and maybe support us on Patreon or join us as a YouTube member. Thanks for watching, and never stop using your nugget. Oh, I found Glalie!